In 1939, the United States Army Air Corps set high requirements for a new interceptor fighter that could counter airborne threats. A unique aircraft capable of withstanding aerial threats needed to be created. In November of the same year, a specification was released, announcing a competition. One of the participants was the McDonnell Company, which presented its Model I project. The distinctive feature of this fighter was the arrangement of its propulsive group, consisting of an Allison V-3420 or Pratt-Whitney H-3130 engine located behind the pilot's cabin, and two pusher propellers installed in nacelles on the wings. However, the project was rejected by the Air Corps due to its excessive weight and the need for further research, which delayed the development time. Despite this setback, McDonnell continued to improve its project and in July 1940, presented the Model II version, a heavy escort fighter with two Continental XI-1430 and 17/19 engines and a two-person crew. However, this project was also rejected by the Air Corps, which did not consider the claimed flight characteristics to be worth the cost of development. Nevertheless, McDonnell continued to improve its project and eventually presented the Model IIA version. In May 1941, the company received an official order to design the fighter, which was designated MX-127, later changed to XP-67. In October of the same year, an order was issued for the construction and testing of two prototypes, as well as the construction of a full-size model of the aircraft and full or partial models of various structural elements for aerodynamic testing. According to the project, the fighter with two engines producing 1150 horsepower was supposed to reach a speed of over 755 km per hour at a takeoff weight not exceeding 8,425 kg. The difference between the actual and project weights usually indicates the number of changes and improvements made to the design. In the case of the XP-67, significant changes also occurred. Instead of 4 20mm cannons and 6 12.7mm machine guns, it was decided to install 6 M4 37mm cannons, which led to an increase in the project takeoff weight to 9,060 kg, and in the end, the prototype's normal takeoff weight was 10 tons. A full-scale mock-up was ready in the spring of 1942, but changes were made to the design. The nose section was lengthened by 380 mm. The landing gear scheme was completely redesigned. The main struts were removed to the engine nacelles, and the control rods were replaced with cable controls. It was only in July 1943 that fully equipped engine nacelles were tested in the Langley Field wind tunnel to determine their wave resistance. After the tests, it was necessary to modify the design of the air intakes and cooling system ducts and to conduct measurements again, which were completed on November 4, already at Wright Field. During the testing of the first XP-67 fighter prototype, which was released from the assembly plant in St. Louis on December 3, 1943, it was noticed that its unusual appearance provided high aerodynamic performance. The mid-wing was a twin-engine, all-metal construction, and the shape of its fuselage and engine nacelles gave it a wing profile appearance. Two water-cooled Continental XI-1430 12-cylinder engines with turbochargers were used for the power plant of the fighter. The engines had a takeoff power of 1,350 horsepower and could develop 1,600 horsepower in combat mode for 5 minutes at an altitude of 7,600 meters. The fuel was stored in 4 fuel tanks in the wing and fuselage, with a total capacity of 2,780 liters. The fighter received the unofficial name, Moonbat, thanks to its unusual appearance, resembling a nocturnal vampire bat. The aircraft did not have a pressurized cabin, and instead of weapons, tanks with carbon dioxide were installed for the fire suppression system. This measure proved to be necessary, as subsequent events showed. Immediately after the aircraft was delivered to the ground and inspected, the first stage of its testing began, ground runs. However, on December 8, the tests had to be interrupted due to a fire in the oil tanks caused by a malfunction of the exhaust system. The oil tanks were replaced, and in late December, the aircraft was transported by car to Scott Field, Illinois. There, on January 6, 1944, pilot E. Elliott lifted the XP-67 into the air, but the first flight lasted only 6 minutes due to malfunctions in the power plant. A ground inspection revealed that the overheating of the exhaust system pipes was the cause. This problem was solved by installing a steel partition and modifying the cooling system, after which the aircraft successfully made 2 more flights. Flight tests resumed in March 1944 and proceeded without significant incidents, although the engine performance was constantly criticized. Therefore, the McDonnell Company constantly offered the Air Force to replace the engines. Even combined power plants were proposed, such as 2 Allison or Rolls-Royce piston engines and a pair of turbojets. But the military insisted on their own decision and ordered the installation of a new, more powerful modification of the Continental engine, which developed 2,000 horsepower at takeoff. From May 11 to 13, 1944, the aircraft was flown by 3 Air Force pilots. They evaluated the aerobatic characteristics of the fighter as normal but noted the insufficient power of the engines, which affected the length of the takeoff run and the rate of climb. The trials of the XP-67 fighter continued for a year, and by the end of 1944 it was supposed to be handed over to the customer for further testing. However, on September 6, 1944, during a routine flight, a fire broke out in the right engine. The pilot managed to make a landing, but the aircraft was unfit for further use. By this time, the fighter had only flown for 43 hours. The second prototype was also not ready for testing, and considering the promising characteristics of jet aircraft, the Air Force decided to terminate the contract with McDonnell on October 24, 1944. Thus ended the unsuccessful story of the first project of this company. Thank you for watching our video.